talk to us a little bit about non-dual consciousness and what it takes for us to get there.
Okay, so the normal way the Western mind works, I don't think native peoples operated this way. We've got a completely different mind. Is that when a new event, situation, person, or idea approaches you, to gain control of it, you do this automatically. You don't know you're doing it. You divide the field of the moment, the new idea, into what you're already familiar with and what you're not familiar with, and everybody probably does that. What threatens you, what doesn't threaten you. But the trouble is we jump to a further stage, and we call that which we're familiar with and doesn't threaten us true, or right, or good. That which does threaten us, or is outside of our experience, or our education, or our ethnic class system, we call it untrue or wrong, you see. That's the basis of dualistic thinking. And within a nanosecond of your mind doing that, watch yourself do this. It's automatic. You do choose sides. You almost automatically, men are better than women. You're just trained to think that way. Whites are better than blacks. Straights are better than gays, whatever it might be. Until you rewire that pattern and see how deep that pattern is. So it becomes this practical. I'm glad you made me move toward the practical. Now that's what the Eastern religions were much better at, especially Buddhism. They insisted on practices, that you had to not just say things or verbalize things, but you had to have body actions. You've all seen Catholics do this. That's a body prayer. Do you understand it? There's some things I can only know in my body, that the life of the Trinity is flowing through me. Do you understand? Now, I don't know how many Catholics even experience that, but you've got to know that goes back to the early periods of Christianity. Everything had to be expressed by bow, prostration, kneeling. The body had to speak its truth. Those were practices that now we can prove actually rewire this. And until you rewire this, your thinking doesn't change. Just because you heard a sermon, that does not mean your thinking change. And do we need much proof of that? I mean, how many sermons are given every day or every Sunday in America? Is America a high-level consciousness? I don't think so as a culture. Because we all think that just by hearing a sermon, but even when we hear the sermon, we sit there either agreeing with it or disagreeing with it. And we leave completely smug and content, either that we totally agreed or we totally disagreed. Both are poor positions, you understand, to totally surrender to it 100% or even to fight it. How about hanging in the middle? So that's contemplation.
So once we recognize that the first step is recognizing it, is being the witness and seeing, I'm a dualistic thinker, which is basically all of us.
Observing, yes.
So we do that and we recognize it, and then we say, okay, I recognize it, now I need to shift it.
And you have to even be humiliated by how constant it is.
It's embarrassing.
How judgmental it makes you, how stupid it makes you, how critical it makes you.
You say something about contemplation, you're going back to eat your own vomit, like a dog eating its own. It is. It's in
this Proverbs,
So then we move to a contemplative stance, or we try to, and what does that look like?
So you have to practice not letting your mind play that game. To not divide the field of the moment. Let the whole event, person, idea come toward you without labeling it up or down, in or out. Do I like it or do I not like it? That will take you years.
And how
to stop doing that.
How do you start?
You have to be humiliated by the intensity of it.
Okay.
How deeply dualistic you are. I think this is what our medieval saints meant by weeping over their sins. That was a common phrase. I wept over my sins. And we say, well, that's a little dramatic. But once you see, I can't go 5 minutes without dissing something. To see that you're a constant cynic.
Right.
That you're a continuous skeptic. That you're an accuser, which is satanic, the way we defined it earlier. You've got to suffer that humiliation deeply.
Okay.
That will give you the motivation to stop going there.
Okay.
And to begin some kind of prayer practice, meditation practice. So those fancy words, meditation, contemplation, prayer, was supposed to be this, where I didn't go back to this vomit. I'm not going to waste any more time in this constant negativity. It's become my whole pair of glasses. It's the only way I see. So that's why the tradition, both in the East and the West, used a common phrase. They called it third eye thinking. Recognizing I see everything in terms of either or. Mm-hmm. That I don't do this anymore, I do this, all right? I look in this synthetic, integrated, holistic way. I don't divide the field of the moment. But don't think, even if you agree with what I'm saying right now, which I sort of hope you do on some level, but even if you agree with it, doesn't mean it's accomplished. Mm-hmm. You have to practice it for years. I'm in my 75th year. I'm still recognizing how I do it, especially in moments of stress or fear or anxiety or humiliation. When I'm insecure, I'll revert to dualistic thinking. Oh, dang it. You know? But now I see myself do it, and I can't get away with it. That's I still do
So
it.
at least you recognize it.
That's it.
And then you can say, okay, I'm doing it.
I'm doing it. Now that begins the process of disidentification. As soon as you see your patterns, you've begun to retreat from them. Just begun. But until you see it,
right.
You are identified with it. So there's no such thing as negative energy. Every oppositional movement is an opportunity to re-choose the positive. We're indestructible now. When I went to the Franciscans, this isn't willpower. This is recognition. This is illumination. This is awareness. This is consciousness. So true consciousness is a communal knowing. It's not Richard's private knowing. It's Richard falling into a shared knowing. Now that level of pure consciousness, shared knowing, is what we mean by wisdom. It's the intuitive mind can have access to that, not the rational mind. Rational mind cannot access that level. So it has to become a practice whereby I little by little loosen my grip on myself. Or the ego's grip on me, however you want to see it.
And your identification.
And your identification.
With your story, your ideas,
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can this be achieved without suffering?
It almost never is. Why would any of us give up our control tower if we don't have to? I wouldn't.
No.
I wouldn't.
No.
It's forced on you. That's why it's the cross. It's always unjust suffering, undeserved discomfort. And your ego mind will find 1,000 reasons why you shouldn't have to suffer this. I'm not against the mind. But I'm for integrating it. I don't want to use my mind, but you can't let the emissary, the rational mind, become the master. It takes over. And the way it takes over is it divides the world into pairs of opposites.